Hayes, of course. WWE Unreal season 2 is out on Netflix. There's a quote from him talking about Chelsea Green. Here's a quote here. He says, Chelsea is so entertaining, but she is not built for, nor should she be in the Charlotte Flair role or Tiffany Stratton, because Chelsea's job is to help make those people. Now, I brought this up because, again, we talked about it on the women's section of the Rumble preview about possible winners to go to Mania to face a champion. And I brought Chelsea Green. He said, no, you can't see it happening. And Michael Hayes agrees with you on that as well, too. My question to you is this. Could you see Chelsea Green at any point before her days are over being a top female?
Being a top female? No.
Yeah.
Maybe winning one of the 2 world titles one day. Sure. But being top, no. I just don't. Because I just don't. I mean, look, it's a perception thing largely. I mean, and yeah, I think it's mainly a perception thing. I mean, I think yes, again, she absolutely could win one of the top titles one day. But being like a top woman in the on either of the 2 shows, I just
Because I agree with you also on that. Like, I could see her winning, maybe being a, transitional champion for someone, like a Sergeant Slaughter was for a while, or, for example, but here's the thing. Like, when we say that, people think that's an insult, and it's not, because we people forget to have a strong wrestling company, you need to have not only a strong top of the card, you need a strong mid card too as well. Right. Like, one of the reasons why the new generation era flopped and failed miserably is because there's nothing wrong with the top of the card. You had Brett, you had Sean, all those top guys. But the middle of the card sucked. So you had the top guys doing great things, but the middle card do nothing. It's not an insult. One of the reasons why I love Hulkman era is because not only because Hogan and Savage and those guys doing their thing, the middle of the card was strong as hell. You had some of the best matches, in that era in the middle of the card. Tito Santana, Rick Martel, some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Rick Rude, Roddy Piper, you name it. Ted DiBiase, all mid-card guys, all significant.
And my guy, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake the Snake Roberts, probably the greatest of all time.
And look, and this is because Jake never held a title. He was never even Intercontinental Champion. He never felt.
I do wonder though if Jake wrestled in. Let's say you take the amount of belts we have now and back then.
Oh, he
was a U.S. title, maybe U.S. Maybe he's transitional champion, but back then you weren't getting it because of Hogan.
Well, now, shoot, he might be, because now, his mic work was superior to like 90% of the people working today, right? If you were wrestling now, he'd probably be in the main event off of his mic work.
Yeah, like a CM Punk.
Yeah, but back then he not only did he never hold the title, he rarely even got a title match. Okay, but he was in these really awesome mid-card feuds where and with Ricky Steamboat and with Rick Rude and with Ted DiBiase and Andre and Rick Martel, and you needed that there. I mean, again, one of the, like you said, one of the reasons that era was so good was because of guys like him and Tito and and Ricky Steamboat, and Hacksaw Duggan in the mid card, right? And guys like that, and I mean, guys like Junkyard Dog, or I mean, Paul Orndorff, right? When he wasn't challenging Hogan, right? Yeah, I mean, that's a big reason why that era was as good as it was, because you had all of those guys, and then So you need people like that. And also, I mean, one of the things about the women's division is that, well, people have been, there have been a lot of people complaining like over the last year, especially with the women's U.S. title,
Yeah,
that they're just, that it's just kind of a flop division because, like, whoever's the champ, there's really nobody, there's nobody really who's over, amongst their challengers, right? And so now on Raw, they had Becky win their Continental title. That solved that problem. But on SmackDown, I mean, Chelsea had the title a couple of times, but then Julia's had it, and they've had no challengers. And so, I mean, you do need a strong mid card, like you said. And also, but again, a lot of this stuff is just there's a perception game. And it's not just amongst the bookers or the IWC. Like there's, the general audience kind of forms opinions of people also, like the larger audience. And and then and it's not as nitpicky or as weird as the IWC gets, but the general audience just they look at you, they watch you wrestle a little bit, they see how your character goes, and they just kind of say they just kind of choose, right?
yeah, yep,
And it's which is why guys like great is like somebody like Cesaro. Cesaro was a great wrestler, but he's one of those guys like the audience liked him and they popped for his big moves. But if you were to poll like, not the IWC, but just like the people who go to house shows or whatever and ask them, what do you think about Cesaro? They would say, you know, US champion or tag team champion.
yeah. Not world
If
champion.
yes, yeah, you say, well, you think Cesaro could be world champion? Yeah, not really.
And that's the thing too. Also, not everybody could be in a world championship picture. There's only a few spots there. You want to clog it, so you want to flourish in the mid card.
And
That's
also, I
not
mean,
insult at all.
no, and then also, I mean, there's this kind of thing with on the women's side where at least, with the IWC, they want everybody to get a turn. Like, or they want everybody who shows any type of even a little bit of promise, you
Right.
know, to get a turn, and to the point where they want, and it's just, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, the world title doesn't mean anything if everybody wins it.
The thing is too. Also, here's what Chelsea has something going for it, though. A lot of these top ladies are probably going to be out soon or close to being out. We don't know. Like these girls hitting close to the 40s. I'm not saying they're not going to continue wrestling, but you know, Becky has for the idea of going to Hollywood at some point. There's been word about that. Remember she has a kid also too. Uh, Charlotte. Who knows what Charlotte with her injuries history as of late. Um, you have now Bianca's not no threat yet, but she's another other side of 30 as well too. You got a lot of top girls. I think Rhea's the only one that's safe, but you still need dance partners. So I do think there was a situation brewing in the sense where Chelsea Green. I'm going to sit there and say she's going to be the number one person in the company for that side of the of the gender, but at the same time, she can find her way because she's doing great work now. Her work is interesting already. It would not surprise me if they, while, and I do agree with Michael Hayes, said here, I also think that I will not write that off either because if the opportunity arises where we need bodies, we need some new fresh names at the top. Here's Chelsea Green, who has been doing great work for a couple of years now. Let's give her a shot. It will not shock me if they give her a shot. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah. I think a lot of it is it's perception.
Yeah,
And also
because
perception for.
she's unfortunately right now pigeonholed into the role she is right now. Unfortunately, she is.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah, so look, never say never.
Yeah, of course.
But and look, and I've said before, she's the heir apparent to the Miz.
Yes, that's a perfect comp. But his thing, even Miz had a stab at it.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
WrestleMania.
he did. Yeah, he did get. He
I can
did.
see that too.
And when he got his big run as world champion, that was during, one of the down times. I mean,
Take
so
some chances. Yep.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, and you hate to just completely write somebody off, but because again, she's been one of the best, most entertaining things in in the whole company for the past year.
And that's why I don't think what Michael Hayes said was insulting. I think he just recognizes the fact that where she's at is so great what she does,
Yeah,
but also important to what they're doing
and that's
for
the
me
thing.
that middle.
I think we as fans, or particularly in the IWC, we write off stuff like what she's doing.
Yeah.
It's treated as if as if it's an insult to be that person, right? Um, and or they treat it as if it's an insult to be in that kind of role, and it's not.
Not
It
at
really
all.
isn't. And I mean, because again, I mean, look, wrestling shows 3 hours long, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just have the women maybe get about a third or a quarter of that, and you can't just have you know 10 women fighting for the world championship, right?
Right.
Like you gotta split the division up and have different people doing different things. Um, but so I don't think it's an insult to say that she's great at what she does and she's in a really good spot, and where she is on the show really makes the show better and all
Right.
of that.
Totally agree.
And
All right.
also,
Mhm.
for her to be a top woman on the roster, then she'd also have to get more serious as a character.
Yeah.
And then okay, so if she does that, then who's gonna do what she's doing now?
She has value. She has value
Yeah,
where she's at
I
now.
mean, and I say that about, and whenever people bring up like Bianca turning heel, that's always my answer. Is like, okay, if you turn Bianca heel, who's gonna do what she does right now?
Exactly.
And they don't have anybody.
Right.
Okay,
Don't do changes. Don't do changes for the sake of change, because then
no,
you put someone in the corner now, and the other spots that need to be filled, and you have the one to fill those spots. Totally agree with you on that one. All right.